Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 297 of TDI. This is Dr. O on the horn to start per usual. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, my best friend, and Tom Hiddleston super fan, Ricky Flex. Glad to have you back, my friend. Coming off your absence from episode 5. Thank God you're here for the finale. How you feeling?
Would never have missed the finale. My apologies for last week, but you guys did great. I listened back. I have my thoughts. I have my notes on last episode, but you guys did great. I have no complaints. We are doing an instant reactions. We are literally just finishing this episode or Loki episode. So my head is in scrambles. It's spaghetti right now. Direct pun. So yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be back. Great job last episode. But happy to be back for the finale.
Yes, we needed you back, Ricky Flex. There's insane amount of Marvel content to talk about, and a lot of implications for the future. Jax, you're back, official TDI, MCU correspondent. How do you feel coming off of that episode and having to put together your thoughts? Ricky Flex is saying his mind is spaghetti right now. How are you feeling? What's your state of mind?
Oh, we're back. I agree with Flex. I think a little jumbled right now. Lot to kind of process, but regardless, we're back.
Yeah. I don't want to overreact, but it's almost impossible not to, when you're doing an instant reaction, literally coming off 10 minutes after finishing the episode. But this is what kind of listeners are looking for, right? They want to hear our excitement. They want to hear how jacked we are, and we got plenty to talk about. So let's take it where we left off. Okay, Ricky Flex, before I just go through the quick synopsis from episode 5, I want to get your thoughts, all right? We had a slower paced episode 5 last week. We didn't get to hear what you had to say. Any comments, any feelings going into episode 6 that you thought were carrying over?
Yeah, so for me, I thought episode 5 was good. I think you guys were really high on it. I think I liked it a lot, but it's hard when you have a second season and you're comparing it to something, because if I'm thinking back to season 1, the penultimate episode, I think that was near perfect, because you come off episode 4 and then Loki gets pruned, and then it's he's in the void, right? And then it's other Lokis and other variants, and then it's Alioth, and it's all this mess, right? You're expecting that sort of faster pace, that anticipation after the temporal loom just explodes and then the screen goes white on you after episode 4. We didn't really get that. So I won't say it was a perfect episode. It was a little slow, a lot of exposition still, 5 episodes in, but with the time traveling, but it was still good. I liked all the different elements of the different characters and their storylines. I thought Mobius was great. Owen Wilson, I thought he was great. Really liked that. And Obi as well. Obi was great. And I liked how every single character was the same, had the same personality traits carrying over. Loved that. I basically loved everything you guys said. The Beyonder thing, I would have pushed back on. I thought that was crazy.
There's a theory right now running that one of the variants of Kang is the Beyonder. What if him being absorbed by the temporal loom, whatever, what if that is kind of the start of that, where there's pieces of him, because the Beyonder, right, can go to any multiverse, can do anything, basically controls everything. What if that's kind of the start to him becoming the Beyonder?
There was a quote from a movie exec who has seen the end of Loki. They said after this season, the Marvel with the angle that they take for Kang, which tells me he is going to be the focus, potentially not only for Kang Dynasty, but potentially for the future of Marvel into Secret Wars, probably because they could have that Thanos in Avengers 2012 type of moment. It's not that crazy after watching this episode.
I don't know, but if I was here, I would have been like, oh, that's tinfoil hat on top of tinfoil hat.
We're getting weird.
We are getting weird. I'm just saying.
If you were listening closely enough, you heard Jack say before. The clip doesn't say it all, right? Prior to the clip getting put out, Jax literally put on, right, the metaphorical.
I know. I listened. I listened to the episode. I wasn't on it. I listened to it. That was 3 tinfoil hats.
Yeah,
No.
let's get strange, dude.
It's not
I
that
know.
off.
I'm not saying let's not. I'm just saying, like, I think that's like the Sylvie dying. I would have been like, yes, that would complete an arc. Like, I totally agree with that. Kang definitely in this last episode. The Beyonder, I would have put because again, like, I'm a Beyonder fan in What If, right? Season 2 coming out in December. I definitely would have pushed
Well,
back on that.
That's the Watcher. You did it again, dude. That's the
I
Watcher.
did it again. I did it again, but
Similar.
but different. But still, I don't hate it. I think that's the one part of the episode I was like, when I heard that, I was like, whoa. That's all.
Same, but different. But I will say, we might have our Beyonder. We might have him at the end of this episode. And I did a little deep dive in. I know I'm not the MCU official correspondent of this podcast, but we might have a couple hints that we could be looking at the Beyonder for Secret Wars. And that's me putting on the metaphorical tinfoil hat so Ricky Flicks doesn't flip his lid again.
I didn't flip my lid. I
Okay.
didn't say. That was one thing. I was like, if I was on the episode, that would be the one thing I'll be like, whoa, that's a big one. And I'm not saying it's wrong.
No,
Jack's a big picture guy.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a big week for Marvel. Now, Kevin Feige's been doing some press, obviously, because the Marvels is coming out, and he's got the Loki finale that just dropped. He's teasing major implications from both of these projects for the future of the MCU. I don't know how the Marvels is going to live up to what I just saw for Loki. I feel like I am really heading towards a letdown for this upcoming weekend, but let's just live in the moment, boys. Coming off last week, Loki, right, following events of episode 4, is recruiting back the members of his TVA squad after they're sent back to their respective branch timelines. At the end of the episode, the branches have started to dissolve, and also with members of his team dissolving. Loki, he's figured out how to control his time slipping and looks to travel back in time to when Victor Timely enters the temporal aura and to prevent the implosion of the temporal loom. Okay. Initial reactions. That's a loaded question because we have a lot of feelings that are flowing through us right now. But Ricky Flex, do you think this finale lived up to the hype? Did they land the plane? Did it do what it needed to do with the expectations set so high?
I think it did. In short, I think it did. It was definitely all over the place because of all the time traveling, right? But again, the show is a time traveling show. It's a time show. That's what we expect going in. So that's okay in my perspective. It's that the words you used, landed the plane. We finally got an answer. We got answers at the end of this. All the exposition that I just talked about in the previous 5 episodes, all the questions, all the solving, all these puzzles. We finally just got the answers that we've been looking for. And, with our main protagonist, we found a solution for him. All like past 10 years with this character, we found a solution, his glorious purpose, right? And in this show, again, I don't know if there will be a 3rd season, but it seems like we found that purpose and that character's completed his arc. And that's what I think I was looking at personally for this last episode, because this whole season's kind of been building up him as a hero, not as a villain, not as like a conqueror or anything like that. No, more of a different path for him in the TVA here. So for me, it did land the plane.
It's very it's perfect that you brought up season 1, episode 5 earlier on, because that is also titled Glorious Purpose, I believe. And
Yep.
so this one's titled the same exact thing. And you're right. We did finally get like where we landed on where Loki, his travels have been, right, these last 10 years, and where like we can expect to see him for quite a long time. But Jax, what were your initial reactions to the season finale?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I'm a big overreactor, but I really enjoyed it. It was just interesting. It was, again, kind of seeing Loki's full character arc kind of get to that close where, like, he says, I know what kind of God I have to be. Like, all that, it was just perfect. I liked it. I was texting Flicks before. I got a couple takes, some gripes, I guess, with how it went. Some things I would have, not gripes, but things I would have liked to see. But overall, like, I mean, it was awesome for me. I enjoyed it.
The first part of this episode with Loki controlling the time slipping. We knew he was going to be going back in time. It got really repetitive at the beginning. Him trying to solve, right, Victor Timely going in and fixing the temporal loom. I wasn't so sure I was going to love it after those first 20 minutes. I was shaky on it. But once we travel back and we go back to one-on-ones with He Who Remains, and this episode, what I loved about it, it was about Loki. As much as we got like a lot of those satisfying moments with the supporting characters in the penultimate episode, but this was the Tom Hiddleston show in my eyes. This is like his peak like performance. If I point to a moment of his MCU career, that final scene in this finale, I thought that was Marvel porn, dude. That was just like Marvel fans foaming at the mouth saying this is like the pure superhero moments you look for in these type of projects, ones that feel heavy, ones that feel like you talked about, like it ends, or I think it looks like it's ending this arc potentially for Loki and finding his glorious purpose, going on a ride with this character. That's the best part about the MCU, right? The character starts off in 2011 and we see how much he's grown to 2023. I thought Tom Hiddleston hit this finale out of the park. He was so freaking good. And I think we can start with him, honestly. Just I thought going on, I thought the design of his character in this finale was perfect to where he ended up. He seemed like he was kind of a foil to what He Who Remains is. Him time slipping and gaining all of this knowledge, his ability to travel through and gain all, like, and see all. He seems like he was predicting what characters were going to say right before Victor Timely went into the aura, right? It felt like that moment in the finale of season 1 where literally He Who Remains is pointing at a script what people are going to say, right? Loki, he initially doesn't start off as the most intelligent man, but he gains so much knowledge from his time slipping that he becomes as knowledgeable as anyone about the TVA and how time works. I really thought it really built up for him to become the man at the end of time. I thought it was brilliantly written. Ricky Flex, thoughts on Tom Hiddleston here and the direction of Loki?
Yeah, it was the past 2 episodes, especially this one, was Tom Hiddleston and ISO. Yeah, the Tom Hiddleston show in your words, Doc. Like, great performance. Great. This was fantastic. Not only from centuries of learning science and the TVA and temporal looms and everything, but also from a physical perspective as well. A lot of toll taken as well for him as well. So for me, like, I thought it was a great performance overall. I do have gripes I think we'll talk about later, not with the performance, but just what Loki does throughout, and just kind of like far-fetched. Again, I'm not the MCU correspondent, but overall, like, I really enjoyed it.
Jax.
I thought it was a masterclass, honestly. I like, and again, we're getting weird. I'm an overreactor, but I thought he did a phenomenal job. Again, like, everything, like, from the point where he's like, again, that montage in the beginning, I like to call it, I was a little like, all right, like, this is cool, like, this is fun, whatever. But like, on some of my notes, like, when he's coaching King, kind of, well, Victor Timely at the time, like, like, get out into, I was like actually laughing. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Victor, what did I tell you?
Yeah.
he sounded like a flight attendant, where it's like, yes, you are very brave, or it seems like he's coaching someone through like a pregnancy. I was dying.
The comedic timing was on point.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, but he killed it. I think it was, again, you guys are more so like the acting critics to an extent, not necessarily critics, but you guys know more about that skill than I do. But from what I saw from someone who just likes comic books, so I like these movies and shows, I think he did a great job.
Yeah. I guess where we can, there's so many pinpoints that we can look at, and we can look at, I want to jump to the final scene so bad, but I think we have to build up to there. It seems like we're all kind of shaky on the beginning of this episode, right? With like the repetition and the continued failure. I guess that's the reason why it just felt like it was getting stale really fast. They tried to put like the nice track that went along with it. It had some humor that was built in, but I was really nervous that was going to be the episode, right? And Loki, and like potentially he just sacrifices himself for his friends, him walking through, right, and putting on the suit himself. But it was so satisfying that we traveled back to those moments with He Who Remains, Jonathan Majors channeling an older variant that he played previously, and then having that final scene and the one-on-ones with Loki and Sylvie and Mobius. I guess what if you guys want to talk about that beginning scene, like Ricky, like why didn't it work for you? I guess.
Yeah, so for me, like it goes back to episode 5 where you have Obi saying like, "Oh, this is a fiction story." Like, he's got to find your who, why, where, whatever, And at the end, it's like, "Oh, time slipping. I can go back." I was like, "All right, this is just going to turn into a time slipping finale." I was a little nervous as I don't want it to be like Palm Springs where like, "Oh, we can just like spend as much time as possible learning the science behind this and then we can get out of here." That's just a cheap and lazy way to, or lazy writing. So I was really nervous in the first 20 minutes that we were going to do that. And then when they do it, I'm like, this can't be it. Right. And it wasn't. And that's at that point, I was like, thank God, a sigh of relief. So for me, it was more like just of trying to avoid that cheapness, that for something that we love, right? And we have high expectations for. Jax, we were texting before this, and you were like, we were saying like how our expectations should be high, right? This is Loki. Season 1 was so great. Season 2, I think it's been very good, but you got to land the plane. You got to land the plane, especially with all this Marvel fatigue. The Variety article coming out last week. You have the Marvels that's tracking poorly. So for me, I was that nervousness for me in the first 20 minutes I had me on the edge of my seat, hoping, praying that this was going to work out. And for me, it did.
There was a little bit of cheapness, I agree, when you just replay hits, the favorite moments from this season. And then I thought I was even a little bit unsure when we traveled back to that scene with He Who Remains. And I'm like, are we just going to go back and undo, right, what happened previously? Is we know he's not going to kill Sylvie, right? We know that's not going to happen, right? But like that's why I think the episode like really cemented itself with its final scene with Loki. But even that one-on-one with He Who Remains, I like how they played it off a little bit differently. It wasn't just Sylvie as much in the mix. It's like, pause. Kang's like, let the big boys talk, gets her out of there. And I thought it, and when I saw that one-on-one scene, I was like, damn, like he might be the next man at the end of time. I think that really set the stage for that final moment. But Jax, right? Did the scenes leading up to like the meeting with He Who Remains, did they work for you? And if not, why?
I think kind of like what Flick said, like, right, like you got to land the plane. Or like, I think that, like you said, like kind of again, just repeating the sentiment, like it would have been a cheap way kind of to get to a resolution if they just kept going back in time and then like at some point they fixed it, right? So because that's not what I wanted, and I'm sure, and obviously that's not what you guys wanted either, and that's probably not what anyone wanted. So it was nice, kind of when we hit that point where he's having that conversation with He Who Remains, it was just like, okay, we're good. Like everything is gonna be okay now. And again, that scene with He Who Remains is that I think they knocked it out of the park. That's my favorite part. Second favorite part of this episode. Obviously,
it was
not the first one.
That was also funny. Like it was also the comedic time in there. It felt funny. You felt like the writing from the Rick and Morty guys a little bit more in this time around than last season. And then just going back for the 20 minutes earlier, or the first 20 minutes of the show, when it said centuries later or whatever, that's when I rolled my eyes. I was like, frick, no, don't do it. And then obviously it ends up being okay. But again, that like I felt like my gut turn a little bit. I was like, don't do it. There's already people like Marvel critics or people coming after Marvel, coming after this show. And I saw the centuries that really made me nervous.
I want to talk about this one-on-one scene that Jax is talking about between He Who Remains and Loki. Why I think it works so well. I think Jonathan Majors, I love him as He Who Remains more so than Victor Timely. And the comedic element he brings to it, I was like, it's a very serious high stakes moment because here we are again. Okay. Is he going to is he going to convince Loki to kill Sylvie? Is he going to take up the mantle? Maybe even alongside He Who Remains at the end of time. But to have like those breaks where Loki is like kind of flexing the knowledge that he's gained on the branch timelines and how the temporal loom works. And I love Jonathan Majors just drawing up the tally. I'm like, that is the character he's born to play. He's not meant to be Victor Timely. He's meant to play someone like He Who Remains. He says like, nice work, champ. And like, he's kind of like speaking down to Loki. That's where it's like, that is the type of villain I want to see, of like a foreboding big bad rather than what we got. Even he makes fun of Victor Timely and his stutter, right, during the episode. I thought Jonathan Majors, low key, was on. No, that was no pun intended. On fire. He was on fire during that scene. I thought he was electric. Any other thoughts there, Jax?
Yeah, like again in my notes, just Kang making fun of Kang is all time. Like I thought, like making fun of the stutter, whatever. Like very funny. I also when Loki, like when he froze time and he was like, "Oh, you think this is the first time we've had this conversation?" I was just like, "Ooh,
Cold.
that's hard." Like, oh no, here we go.
Meeting of the minds, dude.
Yeah, and like at one point, like I was just like, is he who remains? Like, is he right? Like, I was literally like, am I? I think I might be on his side. Like, he's got a point. And but again, end of the episode, we see there is another way, which is great. But yeah, it was. I thought that conversation that they had was hysterical.
For me.
Oh, sorry.
For me, like if I've been through centuries of trying to do this, right? I think, you know what? Let's just kill Sylvie and get this over with. Right? If he wants to keep doing this, he can keep doing it. He doesn't want a war. He just wants to sit by himself and make sure everything's okay. You know, maybe I just let him do it. I think I would have done that. So credit to Loki.
I was
Warrior's
going to say,
purpose.
yeah, the way he had those two choices and then he makes like the third choice and it's like the most like it's going to save all, it's going to quote unquote give us a chance, as Sylvie says. Like it's so crazy to see Loki as this hero figure now. You know, that's what I took away. It's like that was pure superhero writing, where it's like you can kill this person or you can risk the lives of all these people. I'm going to take the third option, right? When has Loki ever done that in a way that's going to absolutely save all of these different people and like all of his friends? I thought that was pure superhero writing for a guy who is traditionally a villain. I thought it was amazing. And then I guess building off of that, I thought also what was so good about that one-on-one scene is that Loki taking it to Jonathan Majors, his He Who Remains, but also there's a part where you almost feel like there is a little bit of depth to the He Who Remains character, right? There's a point here where they talk about he Who Remains goes to Loki and says, "You're trying to provide mercy," and then Loki saying, "Mercy for who? Them or you?" Like I think he is kind of tortured by his isolation and how he is away from everyone. He has all this knowledge, but he has no one to share it with, right? Maybe he's desperate to give up that chair and he doesn't want to be around anymore because he's been there for so goddamn long alone at the end of time, right? Ricky Flex, did that dawn on you at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Like when he was like, "Let her kill me," like no reincarnation. Like yeah. So I definitely like see that as well. But it goes back to Jax. Like give you credit here. It was just like yeah, this is all planned. You know, this is all part of the plan. So like credit to Jax like early on saying it. But yeah, I guess that's where my head was at. I had another crazy thought, like totally sidebar from MCU, but I'll save that I guess.
I mean,
okay. Well, Jonathan Majors. All right. This is
a podcast.
Okay. Well, all right. If we're gonna say it now. All right. Well, Jonathan Majors like, oh, I always knew I liked you better. Like, take a seat. You know, that gave me Denzel vibes.
Whoa. Wow. Yeah.
If you want to put hot takes,
who's talking crazy on the podcast now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have to say it, but. I don't know. That's
him calling him champ. That's like Denzel.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just saying, like, let him kill me. Like
it's like that.
Like, you know, I had those vibes watching him in the scene, dude. I don't know what's gonna happen.
He's so good in that. Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, Magazine Dreams, whenever that comes out, like, probably next year, like, that's an Oscar. Like, he is going to, like, I'm telling you, this guy is the guy. That's all I say.
Wow. I mean, how you followed that up, Jax? Do you agree with that? Is he the guy we're looking forward to? Are you now looking forward to, especially like with that Variety article talking about like after the season finale of Loki, it's really we are on a track for all Kang all the time, right? Are you confident after seeing this that like we have the right person?
Yeah, I think so. I want him, as much as I would love to see Dr. Doom get introduced, be the guy. I mean, Jonathan Majors is wildly talented, and it's just like, obviously, everything aside from the acting, from the show, from the character, obviously, like, we hope it goes well. We hope he's found innocent and he truly didn't do anything. Obviously, like, could go either way. But yeah, depending on that, like, I would love to continue to see him be Kang and see all the other variants and his other takes on these characters.
And what's interesting is that we've seen him as Kang the Conqueror, and Kang the Conqueror gets a reference in this episode. And he gets a lot of flack for his performance as Kang the Conqueror in Quantumania, not as much for his like actual acting in the movie, but rather the treatment of his character. I think he's pretty unfairly judged, I guess, from that project. And it's not his fault. It's like the MCU getting a little bit experimental, and then you see like the lighter roster that they have trying to implement one of the premier variant of Kang. I do think Victor Timely was a little, it worked most of the time. It wasn't like him playing He Who Remains, but after seeing this, I'm like, I want to see what he can do playing like more of these like fear-inducing like type of villainous variants. I want to see what else he can do there. And I think in Quantumania, he had like the pieces. He was there. It was just the wrong time to introduce him, right? Ricky Flux, any thoughts?
I think Jax wants to say so. He's itching right now. I see him on the screen. I'll go after him.
Sorry. My thing with King the Conqueror too, I think a lot of people are giving him flack, right? Like you said, for how they treated that variant and how he was defeated so easily and all this stuff. But the thing with that too, right? He's in another realm. He can't travel. He can't time travel, go to another multiverse, whatever. And also the thing with that character is like, it is his mantra, whatever, is 100% rage. It is rage. He's pissed. He's not thinking logically. He's not this masterclass like He Who Remains or any of the other variants that we haven't met yet. So that's all I wanted to say. Wanted to get that 2 cents in there because I do think that variant of him is treated a little unfairly.
That's good to know. That's good.
So like he's been done a little bit of a disservice so far.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Ricky Flex, like he's the guy, right?
Yeah, he's the guy.
Denzel comment.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna go on with it, but I have a question because I wasn't here for the variety talk, but I think there's a few things that were big for me, takeaways that we didn't already know that came out of the variety article, and one was executives saying that Marvel was screwed. Let's use a different word there. After this episode, because of what they did with Jonathan Majors, and I'll tell you one thing. I was looking at those posts, trying to find a mid or post credit scene. And I think I took more time looking through those than like paying attention to those. There's random people's names on versus the episode because I'm like, why are they screwed? If they wanted to pivot from Kang, they could still pivot.
No, they can't.
You don't think so?
No. You guys weren't watching. You guys did you see when Loki took hold of all the branches? He sits on his throne, and the tree gets populated into purple. Right? That means all these variants are now going all over these different timelines. And we're on the path to multiversal war. That's the chance that Loki has taken. That's why we're screwed. But that's why we can't move off of Kang.
But for me, I think if you're Marvel, you could kind of pivot that and say, oh, Loki's got it taken care of. The TVA's wrapping it around. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a clear, like, they're screwed. Like there was a post-credit scene that Kang is back and ready to go. Like, there isn't anything that's like definitive where it's like there's a Kang on the rise. Like, I think that's just like more like, oh, you could kind of like put that in the back burner.
This is the multiversal war that He Who Remains was talking about. Like, that's happening. Like, Loki took a chance by him becoming the man at the end of time. Like, we still have the death of He Who Remains, and he warned that like it's just going to release all of him, and there's going to be another multiversal war. Like, Loki is holding these timelines together, but it's not permanent. There's going to be like those purple variants are going to be challenging, right, to take back, right, and fight and like take hold of this timeline again. So like I think that if you went to like a Doctor Doom, you can't ignore the fact that variants are trying to populate all over and take over, right, Loki and the timeline. That's why I think they cannot turn.
Okay, I guess like I see what you're saying, and I agree with everything you said. I guess where we disagree is that I think you can ignore it if you're Marvel and like Jonathan Majors, the trial doesn't go like as according to plan for him. I think you can pivot if you really want to. You don't have to do a replacement. I think you could ignore Loki, the TV show. It hasn't connected to the major Avengers at all. So I think you could really if you need to put this under the rug for Marvel, you can still do it. That I guess is where we disagree.
You can push Kang a little bit, right? You can do that, but you have to eventually address it. Like you could have Doctor Doom in the near future if you wanted to like pivot and say, okay, next Avenger movie, right? Let's go towards Doctor Doom. You could totally do that. Just like we had Thanos teased at the end of 2012's Avengers. Then we had Ultron, okay, as the next movie. You can easily say, okay, let's just wait out Kang. He's this ominous threat that's looming over, right, the universe. It doesn't have to be the next Avenger movie, but eventually it has to be addressed. So if you do go off of him, you just got to remember you got to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be ideal. Yes.
That'd be kind of cool. Would you be down for that? Jax, sorry.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, I'm cool. But like, no, I'm sorry, Doc. You kind of blew my mind there because I wasn't thinking that. And that's where a couple of my things I would have liked to see, which I've mentioned previously, like I wasn't thinking right that the purple was Kang. I might have just missed
That's kind of
it.
what I assumed. And then we have Victor Timely go back to his timeline with a purple aura in front of Ravonna Renslayer.
Good point. Okay, yeah, because I see both sides, right? I think what Flix is saying makes sense. You could just kind of sweep it under the rug and be like, the TVA is handling all the variants of Kang, like, which is kind of, again, kind of a cheap way out.
Yes.
But like, if they have to, I get it. But yeah, I don't. Eventually, I think it would have to be addressed if that was the case. Like, okay, what happened with Kang? Like, you're gonna tell me the TVA is just pruning all these variants of Kang? Of literally this guy who can do anything he wants in the multiverse. So yeah, I'm sorry, my brain's a little jumbled now. That just kind of threw me for a loop, but
yeah,
I'm cool with either way. I'd be happy with it.
The TVA now has their new purpose, which I think is also important. They're stamping out Kangs, right?
Yeah,
and like they've already found 3, and then we get the shout out for Kang the Conqueror and from Quantum Mania. But like these other 2, like are they potentially we're going to see in upcoming projects for Marvel, right? 2 that are already on the loose. You could push it to the TVA, but it's a tall task. That is a super tall task, especially like if Loki's busy is alone at the end of time, you cannot reach him. I don't know what's going to go down there. Okay. Where do we go next? I guess we go to the scene, right? With Loki deciding he's going to walk in to the temporal aura and basically take all these dead timelines and then rejuvenate them and create his own temporal loom. Ricky Flex, just initial reactions. Like, what did you think of that scene?
I thought it was great. I thought similar to episode 5 of season 1, where Sylvie's like telling him when they're facing Goliath that, oh, just like enchant it. Here it's like, oh, he's grabbing these dead branches, dead timelines and reigniting them, right? And he's like enchanting them and putting them literally on his back. And he's going up to take his throne, like they mentioned in the beginning in the recap, right? To take his throne. And it's the remnants of the He Who Remains throne. So I think for me, it comes full circle, like we talked about off the top in our initial reactions, what we've been what we've been wanting to see from the past 2 seasons. What is his glorious purpose? And this is it. For me, it was great. I do have question marks just in general, but they could be answered by a correspondent or you, Doc. But I like the ending.
Jax.
Yeah, I thought it was sick, right? I think we also can't gloss over the superhero, the costume transition there.
Oh yeah,
very
this is
Iron Man-esque. I was just putting on like in Endgame or Infinity War rather, where Tony just like taps his chest, the nanotech goes off. I was just like, this is phenomenal. You see the horns growing. But yeah, I think too, right? Like, I thought it was a very like visually stunning scene too. I thought it was just sick to watch. Like him grabbing the timelines, the green magic kind of going. It was great. I thought it was awesome.
I kind of like, I love the look of the horns. I thought he's like a larger than life figure. It wasn't like the smaller ones. It seemed like he was really taking on the God persona here. Him like shouldering all of these different timelines. I'm sure there's like a Greek mythology like type of illusion that they're making there. But like to see him finally using his capable powers, here and like how much he can take on, how he's not like a common man. Sometimes the show gets so like into the TVA and his relationships that you forget that he is a god. And so he's like, this is my glorious purpose, taking it upon himself. And like I said before, this was superhero porn. This is like what you're looking for out of like your favorite characters and heroes. I thought it was absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And the way that he is able to provide his friends, right, free will and give them the opportunity, like Mobius at the end, to go to his to either stay on the timeline like a B-15, or Mobius can go back to where he wants, and you can have Sylvie free roam. You know, he's literally giving that opportunity to his friends, and that's how it connects back to episode 5, like, and how he wants to be with his friends, but he wants to give them opportunities. He meets a middle ground with Sylvie, and he gets to save her life. I just thought it was such an amazing decision, and it pays off big time with that scene. Any other thoughts on it, boys?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is just what we've been saying all season. Him becoming a hero, that's what he did. And this was like the culmination. This is the scene that did it, or that, like, the culmination of it. Yeah. So loved it. I loved, like you mentioned as well, with the cape, the whole like, the whole horns. What I was thinking, I want to ask you guys was, obviously it's a different uniform that is used to, different costume. Is that on purpose? As in, like, Jax, maybe you have an answer related to the comics. For me, I was like, is he getting older? I kept squinting. I'm like, is he getting wrinkles? Like, oh no, is this taking too much a toll
Like
on his body?
Hercules. It felt like Hercules.
Yes, exactly, Doc. When he goes back and saves the girl in the from 80s. Yes, that's exactly it. I was like, there's got to be something in the comics here. I don't know if Jax, you have an answer. I'm not putting you on the spot, but
I don't, to be 100% honest. It was something to, like, it looked like he was getting the wrinkles and I was just like, the horns, like, they were cool. I would have liked like the classic gold horn. Like, that's what I was expecting. And then, like, you see it's like this rugged, like, whatever. And I don't know. I don't know from the comics, to be 100% honest. But yeah, it still.
I thought when he was walking through, he became his younger variant. Was that right? Like from season 1, episode 5, I thought for a moment he became younger, and I thought like him was going through like the like different variants that he is. Like I thought I saw something there. I'll have to rewatch it. But what I also was thinking about, and I Googled it immediately. Maybe Jax can help me out here. As Loki has that moment where the temporal aura is like spreading out, and we all knew what it looks like, right? This is a PG podcast, but like when it opens up and they see him enter, and like basically has this throne that's created for him, and he takes a seat at the end of time. This tree is created. Jax, do you know much about this tree? Like and like references potentially to the comics? I looked it up. I found something, but I didn't know if you had any background on it.
I honestly don't. It took me like, this is how little I guess I know about this specific tree or whatever. I literally wrote down, holy, we'll say cow, he's going to control the timelines himself. And then next line, he made a tree. I know nothing about this tree, but I think it was sick. But I would love to hear what you looked up and what you saw.
So I looked up like tree significance, Marvel Comics, and I found this thing called, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled Yggdrasil. So it's Yggdrasil or something like that. And it's got a bunch of references, has to do with alternate realities. There is one reference to Battle Realm, though, that I thought was significant as we head towards Secret Wars. It says, according to one of the references here, this tree is seen in multiple versions of the comic books, but on Earth 15513, the reality in which God Emperor Doom fashioned Battle World, Yggdrasil was located at Doomstat and used as Doom's throne. During the raid against Doom, Star-Lord uses Yggdrasil to bring back Groot with a splinter. So this has some comic significance potentially leading into Secret Wars. And it also makes me think, like we said before, we talked about Beyonder potentially being teased. Loki might be the Beyonder. Like I think, might be the guy. And he is like, this is the throne that is comic history in Battle World, right? For like the Battle Realm. I think we could be looking at a guy who could oversee all time, just like you were talking about last episode, Jax. That's why at the beginning of this episode, I was saying we might have the Beyonder. We actually might know who it is at this point. And we were also talking about, Jax, we want to see more Loki in like wider MCU projects, not just his own show, because such significant things happen. Like, how great would it be if he was, right, the man overseeing Battleworld after this finale? It's kind of a crazy reference, no?
I mean, I think you got a point. Seriously, like, right? Like, we get to a conflict, whatever it is, down the road to kind of start Secret Wars, start Battle World, whatever. If it's Kang, if it's Doctor Doom, whatever. At that point, right? Like, if Loki is holding all of the timelines and he can see all whatever, who's to say he doesn't create Battle World, or Battle World isn't created and he plucks these specific heroes from different timelines or whatever onto Battle World to kind of stop that threat, whether it be Doom, whether it be Kang, whoever. Like, inherently, I don't know how I would feel about it. I would feel better about that than Kang becoming the Beyonder, I guess.
I got a question, because like now my mind's racing about like what Secret Wars could be like.
Mine's
Okay, it's
spinning.
like Kang Dynasty, the setup Kang Dynasty with all the different Kang variants.
Yes.
But eventually, when there is a Kang, right? I like a part of what Secret Wars is like the bad guys become good. Sometimes the good guys become bad, right? It switches on and off. Correct, Jax?
Correct.
So could we be looking at where Kang Dynasty, we have the supreme variant of Kang that He Who Remains is teasing, and you have the Beyonder, potentially Loki, bringing in villains, or excuse me, characters from all over these timelines to come take down the supreme Kang variant, right? Like, that's just like what I'm thinking. If I was writing this shit, like, that's what I would do.
I mean, right. That's essentially what Secret Wars is. Like, the Beyonder is pulling people to a battle world to basically fight whatever. I mean, you just broke me, to be honest, Doc, and I'm loving it.
I think I cracked the code, boys.
I think we don't even need to watch the upcoming movies and shows at this point. I think we got it. We're good.
We're good.
I'm very happy with that, though.
Mike is gonna find this video and cancel us.
Dude, like the more I'm telling you, I think it's because like I'm inspired by like Jax's like his takes and his theories that like I'm not afraid to be out there now. I could say whatever I want and like and just run with theories, right?
Doc
like
is gonna get an email from Feige tomorrow. Being like, hey,
I'm a loose
He's gonna show up at his door.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a variant of a former self, right? I'm just with all this MCU knowledge. Like I went forward, I time slipped to Avengers Secret Wars and I saw what happened. Ricky Flex, any other thoughts on that final scene before we hit like all these characters and where they end up at the season finale?
Okay, so similar to, again, I'm gonna keep referencing episode 5, season 1, when like they're enchanting Goliath, right? And we're like, how the hell are they doing that? Oh, they're gods. That's the excuse, right? So for him to go out in the radiation and to reignite these dead branches, are we just saying that's because he's a god? He doesn't need the suit and he could reignite and then sit on this throne and take on all those branches. Is that going to be the reason?
I was thinking this too. This is a flaw, right? Where it's just like he can go and he's not immediately eviscerated like Mobius was nervous of, and what happens to Kang or Victor Timely time and time again. I guess that's like a superhero excuse. It's just he's a god. You know, I think we just live and die by it and we just accept it. And
we've done it time and time again. So
yeah. So I mean, Jax, any other explanations for how that happened?
Yeah, no, that was something where I was just like, I think you knew, right? The second he runs downstairs and you're like, all right, he's just gonna go out there without a suit.
he's gonna big boy this.
Yeah, he's just gonna be the guy. But yeah, I was confused by it 100% because again, I was just like, okay, so why can he do, like, is it just because he's Loki and he's a god and he can be out there and not get spaghettified or whatever? Like, is that just what it is? I don't have like a specific theory on it, but like,
and this is why like Scorsese, like the people that will defend him till they die, like I'm one of those people, but I can still like superhero movies. But like this is why you'll never convince some people to be fans, right? And you know, when I had not checked X or whatever, we literally jumped straight on afterwards. I bet that's an excuse that the haters will say. And you know what? We'll give that to them. But again, we've accepted this time and time again, and I'm willing to accept it.
A little bit of a Disney element to it, where it's like, oh, he's doing it for his friends. He can't die,
Yes.
right? Like it's like he believes in himself. He can do it. A little bit of those vibes going. Where we leave off, so Loki, man at the end of time, holding these branches together as Kang populates the timelines, and basically leading towards a multiversal war. Let's talk about where some of these characters we are left with. Mobius deciding to go back to his branch timeline. Jax, your impressions on the decision?
I think it was good, right? I think him seeing it previously in the show, seeing the life he could have, seeing like what else is out there. And again, it's kind of like that full circle. Like he didn't want to know what was out there. He was very against it. And now he's kind of accepting it and being like, okay, like watching this. At one point, I was a little worried that they were going to do the corniest thing ever, which I probably would have liked, because you see him looking, you see the jet ski, and I was just like, oh no. I was like, are we getting this? I was like, I kind of would love it.
That came through my mind too.
Yeah. Should have been the post-credit, dude. How was that not the post-credit?
Yeah, but it was just like, this would be, I mean, it would just be perfect. Like, I'd be happy, but like, it would be the corniest thing ever. But yeah, overall, like, I'm not surprised that we kind of, again, got that end of that arc for him.
Yeah. Flex, thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it. I just have a question where it's like, all right, well, you're not going back to be with your kids or be that dad. So like, what are you going to do now? Like Sylvie, like she's used to roaming around, free willing it, this is new for Moby. I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was nice that he went back, and I thought it was, good character development for this season. But now I'm just like, all right, well, it's kind of like, does he go back to the TVA at some point, like a year down the road? There's a seat open for him,
Yeah, like, is this the end of Mobius? Are we just never going to see him again? That's my kind of thought. Like, is this it?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I had two takeaways. One, like, I think we might have seen the last of Mobius. I don't know if we're going to get season 3 of the show. I think the next time we see Loki could potentially be in a King Dynasty or Secret Wars. I don't know how we go back to like the lower stakes that made the show really appealing after Loki has now flexed his powers and he is the man at the end of time. And second thing I wanted to bring up about Mobius going back, I thought it was perfect that before he goes back to that branch timeline and he's watching him with his relationship with his kids and like him in the front yard, Sylvie's the one next to him in that moment after Sylvie came at him in that one-on-one conversation. And Sylvie says to him, like, you're afraid to go to your branch timeline. You've never wanted to know. And now look at what Loki has created. She talks about like, it's weird not having Loki here, despite like now we have the decision to do what we want to do. I thought that made the scene that much more powerful. And I really don't think we're going to see him again, honestly. Flex, do you think we get him again?
No, I think there's not going to be a season 3.
Yeah.
You have the main protagonist, main character, complete his arc, and he's literally at the end of time in a chair, stuck in it, like, and not speaking to anybody. He's by himself. That's kind of the end of the road. You can't have a Loki show with not Loki, being the main guy. So I think it is over for this television series. It was worth it. It was great. Like, it's just now, like, what I think a lot of fans have been clamoring for, somehow bring Tom Hiddleston Loki back into the MCU cinema fold, the movie fold, right? And maybe it's through the Beyonder or whatnot, but I think that will be a next step because Tom Hiddleston clearly is dedicated to this character. He's a freaking producer on this show, and he said he's given his commitment to Marvel and this character, so he's willing to do it. They clearly love him. This is the only show that's been successful besides WandaVision, really, for Marvel. So yeah, I think the series is over, but Loki's not over.
He's outgrown Disney Plus series by like that final scene. He's too powerful. He means too much, I think, to the future of the multiverse saga that you can't just say, okay, let's greenlight season 3 and let's bring him back to the TVA. Like, there's no going back, bro.
And
right?
After season 1, in the post-credit scene, there's only one, and it's like Loki will return season 2.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
We didn't get that.
Ooh. Good call. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay. Other characters here. B-15, I think it's perfect with her staying on the timeline. Like we only got glimpses of her on a branch timeline with her as a doctor helping out the young kid with the cast, right? Don't climb on trees and all that crap. But not crap, but like stuff on the cast. Really cares for others, but always ultimately cares more about the TVA and maintaining its well-being of all these people, all these branch timelines. I thought that was good for her. And then Sylvie, like kind of perfect that I'm gonna free roam. I'm gonna do whatever I want. Like I was low key very glad that she did not go back to work at McDonald's. I think she's better than that. But Jax, your thoughts on those characters and how they ended up?
Yeah, I think there was no way B-15 was gonna leave the TVA. Just like her dedication to it, and like she's just an absolute dog. Like she wasn't leaving. And then with Sylvie, I think it makes sense too. Like she's just gonna chill. She's gonna do her own thing. She's gonna roam around. She's still got her temp pad. She's still going through time doors. Like she's chilling.
And again, like besides Loki, none of these characters are essential to Marvel.
No.
None of them.
Yeah.
So, quick snip. And the one that we were most
cold.
quick proning. But and the two that we really cared about the most besides Loki, Sylvie and Moby, who we just talked about, they got nice goodbyes. So for me, it's over. It was great. Thank you for your service. You're out.
This is why Ricky's got to be the head of the studio. Like he's not afraid to cut bait. It's like you've done enough. You served.
We're cutting costs.
Thank you for your service, but we don't need you for the future of this universe, right? Don't be afraid to cut ties. Don't put him in future Disney Plus series. Don't give Mobius a spinoff, right? Or grounded thing with him growing up with his kids. Don't do that. Okay, and finally, OB. Oh, before I get to OB. Casey also gets no love here, but we knew he wasn't going back to Alcatraz, right? He's made the right decision.
Well, dude, did you see that? He they called him Frank,
partner of DB Cooper.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry.
It was Frank and the two guys he was with, two guys in the show actually were the two directors of two of the main directors. I forget their names, but Frank whatever. Those three guys are real people, that actually escaped from Alcatraz. Similar to the DB Cooper that Doc, you just realized, obviously real escaped, So like another reference to actual real figures in Loki, which is pretty cool.
I thought he was like the partner of DB Cooper, right? This dude. I'm gonna do a little Google search.
I think you might just be like seeing the side by side, as in like what I saw, like DB Cooper picture and then the Frank picture. I forget his last name, and they said, remember this? What they referenced in season 1? They did the same thing in season 2 with Casey here.
You're right. No, I'm screwing up. All right, good stuff. Yeah, nice.
That was pretty cool.
Reference. Frank Morris.
Morris.
OB. Guys, what do you think about him staying on the TVA? Do you think we see him again?
No,
I don't think so.
You think he went Quan? I mean, like
that was a nice video he put out before the episode saying thank you, and that might have been his goodbye.
Yeah, honestly, that kind of felt. I didn't watch it, but the same vibes,
Yeah, the little second edition TVA handbook, and he's gone. That's it.
Wow,
thank you for your service.
So we're just forgetting the TVA. We're just done with it, boys. We're just done.
Like I said, we could easily forget this if we want to, Marvel. But Loki fans want him. They're clamoring for him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and that kind of leads to the last question that you've already answered. But are we getting season 3? It seems like we're all saying nay.
Nay.
Nope. But
yeah,
after sitting on it for like a good 10-15 minutes, Loki is the Beyonder. I've been literally
10-15 minutes is enough time.
Oh my God. There's no chance he isn't.
Yeah.
There's no chance he isn't. He is going to be recruiting heroes, whoever, to take down someone. It's predetermined.
When he was like going out there, like in the radiation and the loom, I was thinking like, man, I wish Thor and like Odin could see this. I actually had that thought.
That's how we also see eventually Thor meet up with Loki, maybe for the final time, was when he brings Thor to Battleworld.
Yeah.
What if Thor dies and Loki has
Thor's gonna be like, what the fuck?
Bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. What if it's it's like the variation of Thor that we know now? And he's like, dude, like I killed you like 3 times. Like, what are you talking? Like, it's like totally random. But yeah, I was just thinking that. And also with that scene. Now I'm going on a tangent. I like the little leap of faith Indiana Jones call back. Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, that little step out to nothing. Like that callback.
Yeah, that was awesome. That
Yeah.
was awesome. And then you're like, oh, that's God level. That's some
Yep,
God level
yeah.
stuff right there. Okay. And then spin-offs potentially, like Sylvie. Do you think Disney Plus is gonna be able to help it? Ricky's giving them the throat slit.
Dude, we're cutting costs over at
and
Disney Plus and Marvel.
my last idea, if I was Kevin Feige or if I was Bob Iger, what I would do is, you know how we had like the Groot like mini like the shorts, you know, that came out. I'd do that in Miss Minutes.
Oh,
You know what?
that's not bad.
I like that.
I was thinking OB, but Miss Minutes. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
both of them. Like OB could be in it too, you know, but I think it's
Good.
more for like the animated realm and what you could do. It's not going to be too expensive, I don't think. But Miss Minutes is such a, I think an electric character, and like you could tell so many different stories within all the time of the TVA, and you want to still have the TVA a part of the Marvel experience. I think you could do Miss Minutes shorts. I think that'd be good.
I don't think we've seen the last of Miss Minutes. That is something from this show that I think we might see again.
I don't know how though. How would you
Yeah,
bring
I
back
don't know.
this?
If we're
She's
saying
kind of been
this is over-
cleansed.
Yeah, but how couldn't you? Because like you have
AI.
all these variants of Kang, right? You have all these variants of Kang. There's a
Oh.
relationship there. They used to play chess. They used to do this, whatever. Like
She wants to bang Kang. Like,
she wants
Yeah.
Kang.
I,
No,
But I
Kang
wouldn't-
might have got a little greedy. Put it finally. One of these variants put her in human form, or like made the
Jeez.
AI into a
Oh
body.
boy, find a universe.
Someone
or,
found out the technology.
Yeah, some timeline did it.
Wow, can you imagine if we had like a Miss Minutes version in real life that made an appearance? That could happen.
Why not?
I won't say no, but
Weird.
Ricky has hated the last 10 minutes of this podcast so bad. Us
Why?
like trying to like think of ways. No, just thinking of ways to continue like these characters. You're just like, shut up. We're not doing
Sylvie, like
Cut 'em off.
Sylvie. No, all right. I'm changing. I'm pivoting. I'm feeling comfortable. That reminds me. So when I saw Miss Minutes, I was like, all right, we haven't seen her in 2 episodes. Like about time. She's just all of a sudden fixed. Whatever. I trust OB. Whatever. Renslayer. We haven't really talked about it. There's another question. You saw the purple. For me, it goes back to what Jax was saying about, in the multiversal war, and she was kind of commanding the army,
Ooh,
and her potentially commanding who or controlling who? Alioth. I thought that was Alioth.
Wow.
Purple.
Okay, this makes it interesting because I kind of assumed it was Victor Timely being returned to his branch timeline because we don't see him at the TVA following the events of like Loki, and like we don't see him in the future. But it'd be interesting if it was like Kang going to recruit a Kang variant going to recruit such a great commander, right, for the multiversal war. That's what I was
Ooh.
kind of.
That's another thought. Honestly, I thought Alioth too.
Because she was pruned.
Yeah, because like you saw her in the void, so I was just like, "Ooh, is that Alioth?" But could also be it could be a plethora of things. Like that was the one thing too that we didn't really get an answer on. Like I would have loved to see what she saw or what was in front of her, or like was it even because right like the void is like someplace end of time different whatever. Like was it Loki holding all of the timelines and that purple? Like I don't know. We're getting wide scope here, but yeah, I don't know what it was. And I
You're
was
seeing
just-
Ravonna again. That's the character you're seeing again.
But like,
yes, yeah.
we have to after that credit scene. I'm just interested in what it had to be just next to Kang, obviously in one of the movies, or it could be season 3, which I don't think would happen. So I think it's more the former.
Also, I love the touches in these shows, man. Like when she's in the void, you get the pyramid in the background. You know that's Rama Tut. I was getting excited. I was just like, oh God, are we getting crazy right now with an end credit scene? Unfortunately, we didn't get one. But still, I thought it was cool.
All right, boys. That was an excellent recap and reactions and then implications for the future considered. It's been a pleasure doing work with you guys for this last season. And Jax, I mean, we have another MCU project on the way. We got the Marvels coming up on Monday. I mean, are you seeing it this weekend?
Yeah, we're locked in.
We're locked in. Okay,
Right.
so we'll see you for the recording on Sunday. Can't wait to have your reactions. Are we going to carry this momentum? We shall see. So Monday, yes, Marvels. Then Wednesday next week, we have so much news to catch up on, but I don't know if we're gonna even get to that because we got to do David Fincher's The Killer. We also have Dream Scenario coming out with Nicolas Cage and Michael Cera. We are living in a world of cinema right now, a total world of cinema. So much to look forward to. Ricky, folks, we're pretty locked in for The Killer on Wednesday, no?
Oh yeah. Oh, David Fincher. Next question.
David Fincher power rankings coming up also. All right. We'll probably have to hit the checkup next Friday, maybe a little bit of Invincible talk. Make sure wherever you are listening that you are subscribed to the pod, following. Make sure you rate us 5 stars if you haven't done so already. Leave us a review. If you already left us one, leave us another because this was an electric episode. Make sure that you are following us on social media at the Drive-In Pod on Twitter and Instagram, YouTube at capital T, capital D, capital I, and then lowercase podcast. Make sure you are staying locked in. Subscribe to the YouTube, like the video, comment on it. We'll comment back. Tell us about your theories and what you think is going to be shaken out for the rest of the MCU. That's going to do it for episode 297 of TDI. Until next time, we will smell ya.